Hi, Rabbi Mintz.
Hi.
I'm Jessica Moshe's daughter. I haven't seen you since I was a child. Good to see you again. So my question is related to just kind of our identity as a whole and maintaining the lineage of our nation and our people all together. And I feel like it can be separated in two prospects as far as religion as well as identity. What do you think is more important in employing as far as maintaining?
Important is what?
What do you think is more important in order to maintain our lineage?
Yes.
Do you think it's Zionism, our love for the land, our dedication to our identity? Or do you think it's religion and spirituality and Gemara and all those things?
Well, Torah, may put it that way. Is it
Torah,
the
yeah.
land, Zionism, or is it Torah? That's religion. That's the mitzvahs. That's what it is.
But which one do you think is more important in maintaining?
Well, it's the question is it speaks the answer for itself, because let's take a look at Jewish history. We've been out of the land of Israel for almost 2,000 years until 1948, which the land of Israel was established, but 2,000 years without Zionism, without Torah. I mean, without Israel. We had Torah. That's what we had with us. That's what stood by us. That's kept us going. There's no other nation in the world who was chased out of their land and stayed as a nation. They intermarried and they mingled with the country that they were sent to, where they lived in, and their old land became in the hands of other people. They didn't remain as a country. The Romans and the Greeks, and they're not around anymore because they don't have a land. They were conquered by other people, and they disappeared. The only thing that kept the Jewish people was the Torah. That's what kept us alive all the years. Jews studied Torah. Of course, they're always talking about we want to go back to our land. That's a very important mitzvah in our Torah, to live in the land of Israel. That's where we belong. But that's not what kept us going, because we didn't have that for so many years. What kept us going was the Torah itself. So it's not because of my opinion. It's the facts speak for themselves. The land is not what kept us going. It was the Torah that kept us going. So there's no question about it that this is what we're yearning to be back on the land and have the Holy Temple again. That's for our shleimus, our completion that we want to be able to have. But it's not what makes us into a Jew. What makes a Jew into a Jew is a Torah. The land itself. That's why the Torah was given in the desert, not in the land of Israel. How come? It's a funny thing. The Torah, which was such a great, God's greatest gift God gave to mankind, to the Jewish people, was given in the Midbar. And why didn't God give it in the land of Israel? Because He wanted to show that the land of Israel is not what makes us into a nation. It's the Torah itself. As a matter of fact, we became a nation in Egypt, not in Israel. The Jewish people multiplied. They went down to the land with 70 people. Went down, came out with millions of people. They became a nation out of the land of Israel. The sons of Yaakov were all born, except for Binyamin, all born in Chutz La'aretz, out of the land of Israel. All these, God wanted to show us that Israel is not what makes us into a nation. We're a nation because of our Torah, and that's what really that keeps us going all the years. It's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up. It's very important. Because people think the Zionism kept us to be a nation. That's not what made us to what we are today.
Well, I agree with you in the past that's maybe not, Zionism isn't what maintained the lineage, but I think now it's kind of changing in modern day, this generation of Jews, because it is really impressive that we're still around, that we have the land, but this source of identity and this kind of material land and everything that kind of comes together and creates our history, I think is what.
Well, again, we see a contradiction to that, because the youth in Israel that are not learned in Torah, they took a poll of them, and many of them say, we'd rather not be Israelis. We'd rather be other nations, because who needs to be in Israel and all the wars, and we have a war every few decades, kids to be killed, and parents lose their children. What do we need this for? We would rather be nations of the world, and we don't. They have nothing to hold them to. What's their land? Every nation has a land. So they say, well, we could be part of a different nation. Why do we need the land of Israel for? The Israeli pride, if you read the papers and the statistics, has gone all the way down. There's almost no Israeli pride anymore. because they don't see anything what's special about being Israeli. It's been about Jewish, because Jewish doesn't mean anything anymore. If they have the Torah, and God's our God, and we're special, they have something to live for, to be so proud of. But today the Jews, the youth that don't have Torah, they don't see any purpose of being Israeli. What do you need us for? Just another country? A lot of countries. So another country, like a different country. Except we're persecuted by the Arabs all the time. Rockets flying in all the time, going to shelters, and always be afraid of attacks. What do we need this for? Let better be Americans and walk down the street without, not free of fear, but not fear of being attacked by missiles flying in and always being threatened by all the Arab nations all around them. What do we need this for? So again, those who have Torah in Israel, they're the ones who are proud and they're strong. But the Israelis without Torah, they get worse and worse. If you read the statistics.